Ms. Alonso, Frau Kraege has just mentioned various elements of a kind of quality-based definition, what should be regulated and what can be sort of left to market forces. The German view with regards to the politics of the European Commission is very often that the general approach of the EU Commission has a kind of certain bias towards industry technology-friendly approaches, and so the typical cultural element of, let's say, the old broadcasting world, but also of content as such, is perhaps left a bit aside. What do you make of that?
So that we have a tendency to favor industry. That is the first time I've heard that.
Well, technology and industry-driven changes.
Well,
and the market,
honestly, of course that's not the way I see it. Normally, I thought we had a tendency to look at the consumers and to protect the consumer above all. So that's the way I would look at it. But in any case, what for us is most important is the internal market. So, and this is where, just to explain, for example, the logic of the directive, why came the Commission to suddenly legislate on something which is so nationally sensitive as audiovisual? And I can tell you it was not to favor the industry, nor to decide that suddenly it was all these things were better decided in Brussels, but it was to favor an internal market approach. So to say you have things to share, and in order to make it easy for broadcasters to broadcast across borders, we had to have a minimum harmonization while leaving the rest to member states and then for them to decide. And how did we choose what we had to harmonize? Then the approach was the consumer. There are certain things, as you were saying, that are really very important to protect. Protection of minors, hate speech, media pluralism, and these basic things for all member states are very important. So all of them have regulated that. What we needed to find is what was the minimum, so that all companies had to respect that. So, but I didn't know that we were seen as biased for industry. I take that with me.
Yeah, but perhaps we can enlarge a little bit on one of the, let's say, hotly discussed topics within the German market, which is, of course, advertising regulations, at least with the private channels. Europe still seems to have a notion that there is a lot of consumers who need to be protected in one way or another. With your experience of the result of the consultation, is that perhaps going to change or to be eased off a little bit, as it is now, at least from most, I think, of our points of view, clearly a discrepancy between a linear channel who has to adhere to quite strict regulation and a non-linear offering which basically offers the same content, which can do whatever it wants.
Let's say that unfortunately most of the people replying to this question were more focusing on please regulate my competitor than on, you know, advertising regulation is no longer needed because, and honestly we are very sensitive to listen to what are the arguments why regulation is no longer needed. It maybe is right. You have some indeed that say, well, now there is so much choice that the consumer doesn't need protection. The consumer will just switch to whatever other content, and then. But it's very few that really go into arguing why this should be the case. Most of the time is level playing field, and you know, please regulate Google because then, or deregulate me so that I can compete with Google. That's normally not how we think. We need to see concretely why, honestly, the consumer doesn't need to be protected anymore. But we are perfectly listening to these type of arguments.
Herr Schmidt,